Before the witch's final breath, she found a way to cheat her death by cutting off her wicked hand. She kept her grip upon our land. She reaches from beyond the grave to make good men her evil slave. She'll take your blood, take your head. She'll follow you until you're dead.
Pretty damn nice. Welcome to another episode of the 60XP. I'm Sixx alongside Cero.
Yo.
And that little recital, Cero got it from the Satanic Bible. Google.
Sensei Google. Sensei Google knows all.
Satanic Google, not just regular Google.
Yes, whatever. I must learn the evil ways too.
Today is another episode of Halloween series here on the 60XP. And we're going to be talking about... Yes, Cero's excited. It's about time, man.
Yeah. Whoa. Woo, woo,
woo. It's about Fear Street Part 2. We already talked about Fear Street Part 1. Now we're going to do Fear Street Part 2 on you guys.
Yay.
So, while I get myself together, how about I catch you guys into what we're going to be talking about. So, Shady Side. We're back in Shady Side, 1978. School's out for summer, and the activities at Camp Nightwing are about to begin. But when another Shady Side that is possessed with the urge to kill, the fun in the sun becomes a gruesome fight for survival. Also, this movie is rated R for bloody horror, violence, sexual content, nudity, drug use, and language. Sounds just like the 70s.
I figure it was just the many kids they killed throughout the movie. Usually don't see that. You know, during scary movies, you usually see the kids live, but not this one. No one survives in this movie.
Damn, nobody survived?
Well, somebody survives, but they kill kids in this movie too. So.
Yeah, no, there's no real losses there, I guess.
Dang, I wasn't gonna say that, but they make it more realistic. You know, kids don't always survive. It's a sad fact, but we gotta deal with it.
So sit back and relax, folks, as Cero take us through the journey of Fear Street Part 2, 1978.
Woo! Yeah, and before that, there's a small, after the movie started, the first 5 minutes we're still in 1994, Sixx. Not sure if you knew that. I know it's been a while.
Why would you want to talk about the 1994 part when you hated it?
I hate it, but in this movie, they started in 1994 because there's a break-in that's happening. Nothing starts out a movie like a break-in.
Yeah, like the funny part where he starts getting a phone call and saying it's not over yet.
Yeah. So basically, it's like the same day they continue it from 1978. I mean, from the 1994 part 1, it's the same night they continue it, and the break-in is actually Dina and Josh trying to go in and get information from C. Berman, the one that helped them throughout the first movie. It's funny because they see them try and not break into the window, but try to sneak in the window because they really need to talk to her. Then they get the flashlight in the mail slots, so it kind of looks creepy, like somebody's trying to look for Cindy, and you could for C. Berman, you could tell that C. Berman was very inclusive and to herself. She would kind of lock herself away. I think you see that she has 9 locks. That must be bad neighborhood there, Sixx. I don't know, but she had 9 locks on her door.
Man, it sounds like you know a lot about that. Sounds like you done some of that yourself.
Yeah, it's dangerous out here. But so they figure out it's Dina and Josh tell C. Berman that, hey, you're the one that called us. We're trying to help out Sam. And they're like, we know you survived. How can we save Sam? And so basically that's what happened. And then when that started, that's when C. Berman's like, all right, let me tell you a campfire story with no campfires. Please sit in the living room and we'll discuss what happened in 1978.
Man, a quick question. Every time, not a question, but a quick stop. Every time you say C. Berman, I don't know why it comes to my head. Birdman. I don't know why.
Birdman. That's one of the characters. Not Birdman. That'd be pretty cool if Birdman showed up in this one.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the complete different person.
Yeah, but so he goes to this 1978, And nothing starts a good, backtrack to the 70s from a chase scene from, looks like Sheila is chasing Ziggy. Looks like she's accusing Ziggy for stealing her stuff. And, Sheila's like, I can't handle this person. So she tags in her partner, and her partner comes in. Oh, gets clothesline Ziggy. Oh man, what a scene on that. Like I said, it gets violent. Kids get knocked down, but the first scene, basically, you see Ziggy Berman gets clotheslined by one of Sheila's friends because they think that Ziggy stole money from them. And so they tie her up. That's when you actually hear the chant that we just talked about, just in the beginning of the episode. They say this chant to her, and you kind of get the little feeling like 1994 that hey, you're shady sider, you're evil, you're a witch. I think they say this bitch needs to die because she's a witch. Like they kind of go on that because the people that got her are Sunnyvale, and she's a shady sider. So you kind of still get that same concept of the 1994 on there. But this one, like, they get brutal. Six. She's like, I didn't steal it and all that. So you know what? I'm gonna make you talk. So they got a cigarette and start burning her arm right there.
Sounds like a good old fashioned time.
Yeah. Well, they had some people break it up, so nothing went too far. She just got a little burn. So the camp counselors came in and broke it up, and it's kind of like what they had in the 1994. Like they had the killer scenes. There, you could tell that they're kind of the same setting as like Scream or other killer movies. This one, Six probably knows a lot more about that, but this is more on a 70s camper thing, which I think we all know a famous.
Oh my God! Yes. Let me jump in.
Go ahead, it's all you.
Man, it's so great because as soon as they go back in time, it reminds me so much of Freddy Krueger under Dreams. As he comes out on the dreams.
God. Get this guy out of here! Get this guy out of here!
What? Wrong movie?
Man. You're cut.
Wrong movie?
You're cut. You're cut.
Oh, you keep on going.
Cut. Man. So basically, you that's kind of how it starts on there. Then you kind of throughout the thing meet the characters. You meet Ziggy, which you also meet Cindy. Cindy Berman, which is Ziggy's sister.
Birdman,
yeah. You meet a person that you already know, 1994. You meet Nick Good, and they mentioned like several times throughout this movie, oh, they want you to remember who Nick Good was. Because like, oh, Nick Good, you're gonna be the future chief of police. Oh, Nick Good, yeah, you're gonna be my boss. Like they kind of state that on there because in 1994, you see that same guy as chief of police on there. So
cool stuff is in the 1994 one, he wasn't like a main protagonist, but on this one, on the past, he's actually one of the main protagonists because he's kind of in love with the other main actor. So
yeah, with Ziggy on there, so they kind of put that on there. So throughout the scene, you get instructions from the characters. You meet Cindy, which you can see is like the total opposite. Ziggy is kind of having that we're shady siders, we don't get a chance, why do we even try? But you can tell Cindy, she's giving it a try. She's like, I know I'm a shady sider, but I'm gonna get out of this. I'm gonna figure out a way to break this curse without her believing in the curse. She just thinks that hard work will get her through it. By the way,
man, let's be honest.
It doesn't.
I was about to say, when does hard work ever get us through anything?
It doesn't. But she tried. And then you kind of some of the things you'll hear more about Sheila, which is the one that was bullying Ziggy, Nick Good, Tommy Slater, which is Cindy's boyfriend. To meet some of the camp counselors on there. You'll meet Alice, which is Cindy's best friend, or I guess at the time ex-best friend. That seems like they got into a fight prior to the movie. And then you'll meet Arnie on there. So you kind of get those characters and see how they are and how different they are. Because even you can tell Alice is one of those, like, all the shady sides you can tell is basically, I do what I want, but you can tell Tommy and Cindy were kind of different and trying to get out of it.
What about Timmy and Jimmy? Were they still okay?
Timmy and Jimmy they're okay. Six, they're okay. By the way, there's no Timmy and Jimmy. Don't listen. But
he's lying. You guys remember one of our episodes? They just died in the future, but in the past they were still alive.
And one of the things I did like about throughout this movie, and I'll explain a little bit on here, is throughout it they kind of explain some of the stuff that happened in 1994. You'll meet Nurse Lane, which if you remember in our first one, you remember Ruby Lane, which Nurse Lane was Ruby's mom. Which Ruby Lane was the one that was singing while she was stabbing one. What was his name? One of the characters in 1994. Not your favorite character, but the other one.
Simon.
Simon, that could be right. Yeah, that's that. So even though you get a small scene of Ruby Lane, you get some of her backstory, what happened. Like they were saying she was a good kid. She was in choir. She loved to sing, which was pretty funny that they stated that because while she was stabbing Simon, she was humming and singing while she was doing that. So
I love that. I just love that. She's my favorite just for that.
Yeah, she's my favorite killer. I love Ruby Lane. She's awesome. And so throughout that, you get to kind of talk about that, saying, she was good. I don't know what happened. Like, I guess she just snapped one day and she just killed 7 of her friends and herself. Just one of those bad days she had. But she didn't know, so you could tell Nurse Lane was looking for reasons why to do that. Which she found some information, which we'll go over, the kind of movie will go over later on. But you just tell that they found a book that you could tell it's old, like a witch's book, and they're looking at the stuff. And Alice and Arnie's like, "Hey, let's follow this book. I bet you she has some good drugs hidden somewhere." So nothing can go wrong there, man. I mean, it's a good book. But prior to that, it looks like Nurse Lane got a little psychotic scene, and she went to attack Tommy and says, "You need to die. You're either gonna die. You're gonna die today either way. Let me just kill you." And she's very nice, she'll just being nice, being a friendly person, saying, "Hey, you're gonna die anyway, so let me just jump in and just stab you in the heart." Let's go see on that. And then Tommy Slater kind of gets away with not gets away, but kind of gets away, and Nurse Lane goes to the hospital. And then so after that, that's when they kind of find the book, and then they're going to find where this book goes because they think that Nurse Lane's crazy, and the reason she's crazy is because she's taking pills. And so Arnie and Alice is looking for. She thinks this map. There's a map in the book that states where the pills are at, so she's following that to get the pills. Which what they find out is they find the witch's coven, I guess what you call it, area, place where I guess all the magic is happening. And they kind of explain some of the stuff on there, saying that the maze was more of a symbol that was happening. Not the maze, the drawing on the thing was a symbol and also a maze throughout that. But one of the things I did enjoy was throughout the adventure of them going through this, you could tell there's a process that Tommy Slater is going through that you could tell he's not being himself. He's feeling sick. He's kind of in those flu-like symptoms.
He's changing. He's getting possessed by the witch's spirit curse.
He's hearing voices. He's staring at the ground a lot and not acknowledging people. So throughout this whole thing, you see him kind of doing that.
That's all normal stuff. I usually do that from time to time.
Yeah, well, you're possessed, but.
And so I just like looking at the ground.
So, while that's happening, the kids in the camp, they're playing, I think it was Color War, but they're basically playing hide and seek. And you could throughout this, you could tell that they're just saying, "Hey," I think they said, "Sunnyvale versus Shady Side, good versus evil." They just kept bashing on the Shady Side, just saying how bad it is. So basically, they're just playing something like hide and seek, and then once they catch them, they have to put them in jail, and they have to catch them all. And so that's happening over in the camp while we go back to Cindy and Tommy and Alice and Arnie. You could tell they kind of find some information there, and something happened to Tommy, and he just snapped. He saw a pretty axe. He loved the axe. He was asking Arnie how much it cost. Arnie didn't answer, so he just hit him in the head and killed him.
It just happens sometimes, sometimes you're just tired and stressed out, and you know what? I'm just gonna shut up and let you continue.
Yeah, it just nobody was answering him, so he just saw the axe and said, "Hey, how much is this?" And just showed him it. And while he showed him it, he accidentally hit him in the head. It's fine. But throughout this whole thing, I guess I like movies that has like a lot of deaths on there. But like throughout this, I was on edge. You could tell like the scary part was kind of seeing what Tommy was doing because you could tell he was hearing voices and all that stuff. So it took like 45 minutes until you see the first death.
You were on edge. Did I hear you say that correctly? You were on edge.
Yes.
Damn.
Yes.
I can't wait till the end of this episode to know what actual review you're gonna give it. Now I'm interested.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you got interested on there. And so that's basically when the bad stuff starts. Tommy changed, and now he's a killer. He's going around killing people, and Arnie was the first one. Cindy and Alice runs off, and Tommy's like, "Oh heck no, I'm not chasing down. I'm gonna go to the camp. I'm gonna go find some kids to find." And so one thing I don't want to say enjoyed, but I kind of thought that was unique was while the kids were playing hide and seek on this game, that's when Tommy was going around killing them. So one of the scenes, like one of the jailers let a bunch of kids go because he I guess he just got confused, and so Tommy just jumps in and he's like, "Hi, Tommy," and then Tommy just goes in there and bam, just slams him, and So again, like you said, they don't really show the kids dying, but you can see it, and like they kind of shoot out to the house, and you hear the kid.
I don't know why. While you were saying that, I was just smiling from ear to ear.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. You may have a problem.
But one of the things I enjoy about that, let me cut you off for a second here.
Go ahead.
Now that you're saying Tommy is already full-fledged killer, which is awesome. So the real movie this will make you think about a lot throughout the whole movie is actually Friday the 13th. You see a lot of relations to that. Well, I mean, it's not connected in any way, but there's a lot of similarities to that type of movie of Friday the 13th, the first one and the second one. One of the reasons the second one, because the way they dress up Tommy, like with the axe and whatnot, and then they put like a sack on his head, right? That's what he's wearing, like a potato sack on his head.
Well, yeah, later on, and it's funny how they did it because like at first he wasn't, but in the first movie you do see him have that potato sack on his head, and throughout the movie you see that one of the actually Ziggy was trying to choke him out with that, and so she thought she killed him, but he just stood up with the thing, so he just kept it on. So that's kind of how, yeah.
And in Friday the 13th movie, the second part, Jason Voorhees, he basically that's his dress code. So that's why this second part I love more, like the way it was set up, because it reminded me so much of that, and it was actually based a little bit on that. So that's one of the reasons I love it.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. This one was to me a lot better, and I'll explain later why. But yeah, that's basically on there. And when Cindy and Alice ran off, they kind of give you hints on what happened throughout the first movie and all that stuff. You get to see this the stone that has the name, and that's when they see Tommy Slater, and they notice that once Tommy Slater kind of snaps. And then they kind of look at the other names prior to that, and they're like, "Oh, that's the Shady Side Killers. Oh, that's Ruby Lane. That's the one." Like they see these names that they became killers.
Yeah, that's a pretty way of connecting stuff that they explained to you on the first one, and you actually see it on the second one.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and then they figure out that the symbol in the book is kind of a maze that's inside the witch's oven, and then they find this big, weird, gross, I don't know what they call it. It looks like a thing, like Play-Doh-y thing in there, and they're kind of grossed out on that. It looks like it has a heartbeat to it, like it's living. And they kind of figure out throughout all that I think Alice is the one that finds They figure out one way to break. They say that to break the curse is that they need to get the hand and put it next to the body of Sarah Fear. They said once the hand meets the body, the curse is broken for the Shady Side. So they were kind of like, okay, let's find the hand. Let's do this so we can break the curse. Which Alice finds the hand, I think, in that living thing or whatever. She kind of looked through in there and she found it. And then after through all that, you see, like Sixx said, you see Ziggy and Nick kind of have a romantic thing while they're getting chased by an axe killer. You see Nick save Ziggy's life on there. I think he gets his leg cut a little bit, which is kind of interesting to see that because in the first movie you do see him walk with a little bit of a limp, and that kind of explains why he walks with a limp, because his leg got cut throughout.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Damn, you
Yeah,
actually pay more attention than I did. Look at you.
You learn something new today. I'm glad I taught you. You have
He might be lying,
much
folks.
to learn, Grasshopper.
Might be lying.
Check out the movie. Like I said, the second one I really enjoyed, so I look into that, and like I said, stuff that makes sense to me, all about. So now they go through that, and then basically you see Tommy kill. I think they killed about 10 to 12 on there, and then so now he sees Cindy. I'm sorry, not Cindy, Ziggy, and so he's chasing Ziggy around trying to get her. That's when I think it was a cool scene to see that Ziggy tried to choke him out with a corn sack or like a mask on there, and he didn't die. So, but since the sack was already on top of his head, they just kept it on there, which you'll see in the first movie. So he just kind of kept it. Like, hey, you know what? Thanks, Ziggy. This is a good look for me. I'll keep it. Keep it. Gotta look styling.
Ain't that quite the shocker? Serial killer in horror movie that doesn't die.
Yeah, I know, man. It's like they just never die. The heck?
It's like we never seen it before in any horror movie.
Yeah, it's just so original. Like it just never happens. So yeah, and with that, Ziggy almost dies, and then you see Cindy come and break in. It's like, hey, tag me in. They just basically both tag team. I don't know what is it with me. I'm just putting a lot of wrestling
quotes.
Yeah, quotes all in here, but yeah, they tag them in. They kind of get them down. And I think even Alice came up and got some of it too. So
I was about to say, are you sure we're still talking about the horror movie? Tag me in, tie me down. What's going on in this review?
Yeah, I know. It's like wrestling all over. That's why I say you cannot like a movie with the first scene in the flashback is someone gets clothesline. And she got clothesline good. So they kill him off, or they think they killed him off. Like Sixx says, they never die.
Of course they don't. They're already dead.
And so they're kind of looking through the book to see where the body is, because at the time, Alice has found the hand. So she's like, hey, here's the hand. We just got to find the body. Once we put them together, we'll be fine. These killers will disappear. At least that's what the book says. And so they kind of got hints that it's underneath this tree that's in the camp. So they run off the tree. But before that, Tommy's like, that's not happening. There's a toll that has to be paid before you leave this room. And it's one death. And they got Alice. I think she got stabbed in the chest with the axe. So pretty brutal. So she goes down to the counts. I think Cindy stabs him again. Cindy stabs him again, but then they run off, and then you see all the even Sixx Favor comes back. You see Ruby comes in, and then some of the killers comes out from that, I guess, weird living heartbeat thing that was underneath of that was near Alice and Cindy. And so while they're over there digging, you see all these killers circling around Cindy and Ziggy. And they get the worst luck. The body isn't underneath the underneath the tree. Which you'll realize that because you're like, that doesn't make any sense because they found the body somewhere else in the first movie. And you will be correct. The second one was wrong. They looked in there and the body wasn't there. So now the body wasn't there and they're surrounded by killers. And it's just them. That was probably one of the most gruesome scenes I saw because they try to run. And if you're looking for a happy ending, it doesn't happen.
You're on the wrong place.
Yeah, those, like, Cindy got axed up, and you see Ziggy, they get stabbed like 20 times in the stomach. It's brutal. And
But
I guess
effective.
I guess to lighten up, well, not really effective. To lighten up, you see them getting stabbed and axed, and while all this is happening, they're reaching out for each other. So there's a little bit of sadness in there.
Boo-hoo, there's no crying in horror movies. Come on now, Cero. You know better than that.
I can do it. Okay, so throughout the movie, they kind of went. After that happened, then you see the ambulance come in, and you see the ambulance was able to resuscitate Ziggy, but Cindy didn't make it. And throughout the movie, they kind of hinted, because in the beginning of the movie, you see the address or name is C. Berman. So people always think it was Cindy Berman, or I guess that's what the movie was trying to portray.
Birdman.
So they thought at the end of it that Ziggy was going to die and Cindy was going to live. But it was vice versa, because Ziggy's real name is Christine, which is C. Berman. And they don't realize that until Nick Good says, oh, her name is not Ziggy, it's Christine. And so that's when they're like, oh. And so that's when you'll notice that she's the one that survives and not Cindy. I think they even said, I think Josh was like, oh, so you're Ziggy. Like, because they were shocked, they were supposed to be shocked because I guess the C. Berman thing. So I think Nick saves Ziggy, but they say that Nick doesn't believe, they don't believe her story. So Nick just says, I think she's, I don't know what she's talking about. And so throughout that, after that, Ziggy, which is C. Berman, states that I just kind of locked myself in since then. And, since we can't break the curse, she's like, well, so now the flashback goes back to like where 1994, where Dina and Josh and Ziggy's at, and they're saying like, oh, well, you look at the wrong place. The body's not there. We know where the body's at. And so they're like, oh, well, the hand was buried underneath that tree. So then throughout that, they get to the tree, they dig it up, and they take the hand to the body. Dina touches the hand with the body, and she gets the flashback back to 1776, which, hint, 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 that's the third movie.
That's the part 3.
Yeah, so that's basically the whole movie on here on that. To me, it was a lot better than the first one. The acting was good. I like the plot. Maybe I'm more into the chase and error on that. But I think one of the things that I think I said two things that I didn't like about 1994. First one, I didn't like the characters. And so for this one, they kind of have, Cindy become like saying, hey, we can get through this. Even though in the middle of it, she's like, you know what, fuck it. We're not getting through it. But like, you can see them, you kind of see, I guess, the character built up a little bit on there. Like even Ziggy, even in the beginning, she was pissed off at the world. But I mean, she gets to that clothesline and burn her arm. Yeah, I'd be pretty pissed too. So like, even if it was a short scene, they kind of explain a little bit why she's mad and kind of how to cheat. I think they had her on a name on her over her bed, say she's a monster. So like you kind of see throughout the movie why she feels that way, because she's been so mistreated. In the first one, I just didn't see that. They're just like, oh, you guys are teenagers, whatever, leave us alone. In this one, they get to the point of like they're brutally bullying her on that. So I think that was one of the first things I talked about the 1994, and this one they did a better job on. The plot was better. I always like explanation that makes sense throughout the first movie and this movie.
Gotta agree. Characters were so much better to digest than the first part. I got a funny story to say about this. You remember that part where Alice breaks her leg? Like she falls down, I think it was on the cave, breaks her leg, and her bone pops out of the skin.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So do you know that after that, I don't know if you noticed, since you're so good at this, you saw the Nick good part. Let me see if you noticed this. That she's walking and putting weight on her broken leg. Like in reality, if you break your leg like that and your bone comes sticking out, you wouldn't be able to put weight on it.
Yeah, even I think Cindy she pushed it back, but you're right. You still wouldn't be able to put weight on it.
Yeah, because it's
not broken like that. Yeah, because it was completely broken. It was completely sticking out.
Yeah, it's like a compound fracture, so there's no way for you,
Yeah, you could crawl, but you can't put any weight on that. It's gonna. Yeah, it won't. No.
You'll be screaming in pain like crazy.
No.
But yeah, that's some funny stuff. Also, I gotta say that they use in this part they use one of David Bowie's, one of my favorite songs, "The Man Who Sold the World." I just love that song. Every time I hear it anywhere, even as a gamer, you can hear it on Metal Gear 5. And I just love the way that song sets also the mood. And here's a fun fact for you, Cero.
Before you go that, I did want to add one thing, because you were talking about music. I think the music was better on here, but I did enjoy, I think, the scene when Tommy was hunting down Ziggy. They played what was the song called? They played, give me 1 second, I can tell you. Carry On, Wayward Son. So I was like, oh man, is Sam Dean gonna show up and save the day because it's supernatural?
You're talking about Kansas right there.
Yeah, but they had some good music on there, and just some. Oh my god, Sixx and I, we watch Supernatural, so we're big. I don't say big, but we're fans. It's a good show. So they played it twice. Maybe it was too much, but I can see people being like, oh, "Why are you gonna play the same song twice throughout the movie?" But I like the song, so I was okay with it.
Yeah, I mean they had a good choice. They had a lot of 70s stuff that I love. They had the Runaways Cherry Bomb right there.
Mm-hmm.
They had what was it that they have? Don't Fear the Reaper, by Blue Oyster Cult. Like Cero said, Kansas with Carry On My Wayward Son. So there was some good. Lou Reed with Sweet James, Slow Ride by Foghat, and David Bowie with The Man Who Sold the World. So a lot of really great classic rock in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy this soundtrack. It didn't feel as forced, like you said on the first part, when they forced down, like, it's the 90s. Did you guys know it's the 90s?
By the way, did you know it's 90s? Like they had the songs on there to kind of push you, to help you with that, but it wasn't just that. They're like, the setting of it was real good. And maybe it was because like I was thinking of Jason, that's back in so maybe that's why I had that mindset. But yeah, like the plot of it, the art and the cast and the characters and just the location, just I guess sold it for me on that. So yeah.
And fun fact, Cero, did you know that this is actually, even though this is part 2, did you know that this movie was filmed last in the trilogy, even though it's the second part?
Yep.
Oh, you knew? You know what? F you, man. Trying to get the people here a little fun fact.
Did you? Well, because the only reason I know that is because I heard that the actor of Tommy Slater, in movie 3, they said that he did such a good job, um, that they kind of put more storyline in this movie. They said in the first draft or the first final that they were going to go through, Tommy Slater, which was Cindy, the one that was the killer at the end, his scene was very minimal in the beginning. Like they weren't going to show much of him. They weren't going to show that development of him turning. Basically, they're just show, oh, he's a killer. But they said that his acting skills, they were amazed by his acting skills in the third movie. That in the second movie, they said, okay, we're gonna pick a bigger one. So that's the reason why. Only reason why I know that because of that. Because they said the third movie he did such a good job.
I don't want to put you off by this comment, but doesn't he remind you of a young Robert Pattinson?
Does he? I don't see it.
Kind of, man, kind of. Maybe the looks, but on part 3, he actually reminds me of Robert Pattinson in some way. Some of his acting.
Does he?
Yeah, because some movie that I saw with Tom Holland and Robert Pattinson where he plays a priest. I forgot the name. I gotta look it up and tell you the name. Maybe you can watch it. It's a pretty good movie. Good performance from Tom Holland and Pattinson. So yes, folks, he's not only known for doing Twilight movies. He has a career out of Twilight where he does some good acting.
He's the new Batman that's coming out next year. So
looking forward to that. But we'll be talking about that later. This is all about Halloweeny stuff.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. It was a lot better than the first one. Good to watch. Good to see that you kind of get you have to watch all 3 for it to kind because they all kind of link together. So just bear through the first one and then just you'll enjoy the second one. The third one's good too. Second one's my favorite, but the third one's good.
But here's what we all been waiting for. Here is the time when we actually get to know what kind of score Zero is about to give this movie. Because we all know, what was it that you give the part 1? Was it a 1?
I thought I gave it a 1.5.
1.5. And I think he was being generous and giving it a high score. We're going to see now, ladies and gentlemen.
Maybe I went 2. I don't remember. I don't know if I was being nicer. It was about 1.5 too, but this one.
Here we go, folks. Moment of truth.
I would give it a 4.5.
Wow. Wow. It was actually higher than I thought what he was going to give. I was thinking you were going to say a 3.
No, I enjoy this movie.
Can you repeat that? How much you're giving it?
A 4.5.
Damn, I think this might be the highest score you've done so far on the show.
I think this is the anything that we talked about that we rated. I think this is the best one. Yeah, I don't think there are other movies that's better than this. I'm not saying this is the best movie I've ever seen. And maybe 4. Maybe I should. Maybe because the first one was so bad, this one just increased it. Maybe I should go more with 4. 4 is low. I mean, 4 is the lowest I'll go on this. But yeah, this is again when me and Sixx was talking about this. The first one, I told Sixx I'm done. I'm not watching the second one. And Sixx kind of talked me into saying, "Hey, let's just try it out. Go ahead." And so I did, and I said, "You're right. I'm glad I did." And I watched the third one, and the third one was good too. So, but this one kind of got me back into it. Because the first one I didn't enjoy. So
basically, what Zero saying, he's an old soul. He enjoys good old classic type of horror movies, more like the 70s style, 80s, not the 90s. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, what about you, Sixx? What would you give it?
I am gonna give this movie a 1.
Hey, get out of here. Get out.
And the reason I'm giving it a 1
because it's number 1 in your heart.
Yes. No, that would be number 0 on my. Oh, no, you know what? You're not on my heart. What the hell? No. No. Out of joke. I'll give it a 4. I'm giving it a 4.
You're gonna give it a 4? You enjoyed it?
I enjoy it. Like I said, nostalgia,
Mhm.
Friday the 13th nostalgia and good soundtrack, good kills. Um, you know, killer killing kids in camp, always fun.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with that. So,
So yeah, I'll just give it a 4. That's our a review point on Fear Street Part 2, 1978.
yes. And wait until next one, which we'll talk about. I think it's 1766, if I'm not mistaken, where it all started, where it
Yes,
all begun.
we're going to another more trip in time, more to the past. Well, folks, that is gonna be all for this episode here on Fear Street Part 2 here in the 60XP. If you enjoy it, make sure you check us out. Ooh, I can't even talk. Make sure you check us out on Facebook at 60XP. Also, check out the other podcast episodes we have out on Spotify, Google Podcasts. What is the other one, Cito? Apple?
Yes, Apple.
And every other podcast broadcaster out there. Yeah, make sure you just look up, search 60XP on all those podcast search.
Yes, and follow us on there. Sixx will have updates on the Facebook thing. So if you want to follow some any nerd news and stuff that's going on, we'll have that up for you. And we're planning on having a weekly podcast explaining or just talking about updating games or new games or new movies that's coming out. So you guys can be up to date on everything.
So for the CCXP, this is Sixx signing out.
This is Cero signing out.
We'll see you on the next Halloween episode of October. Weenie.
Thank you for watching. This is Cero from the 60XP. If you enjoy, make sure you subscribe and push on the notification bell to get notified for all new videos that come out. Later.